Our next speaker is Tammy. I've known Tammy for a few years. We met, she reached out to us when her daughter was not doing well. Tammy is from Edmonton. She's a mom, and she took on the caregiver role when her daughter was diagnosed with stage 4 stomach cancer at the age of 22. She used her medical knowledge from her former career as a radiology technologist to advocate for her daughter. And she lives with her husband and son and 3 dogs. And I'm sure you're not happy today, but she prefers the warm weather, even though she lives in Edmonton, to our cold winters. So if you could please welcome Tammy Nespliak.
Gotta have all my props here. Is it the top or top ones? Okay. I'm gonna try to channel my strong daughter throughout this, so bear with me. Good afternoon. I am honored to be speaking today, even though I'm a little bit terrified. Teresa has been asking me to speak for a while, and I finally think that I am ready. I am hoping that I can help at least one person out there. My name is Tammy Nespliak, and I'm part of a club that I never wanted to be a member of, the Grieving Parents Club. One of the best gifts in my life was being a mom to our daughter, Megan Nespliak. Megan was a smart, funny, spunky girl from day one. She told us from a young age that she would be famous by age 12. We loved watching her grow up to be an intelligent, confident, and ambitious young woman. We had an amazing mother-daughter bond, which I was lucky enough to share with my mom as well. Megan was a driven individual. During COVID, she started her own online clothing business. In fall of 2021, she was in her last year of college, finishing a Bachelor of Business degree in marketing, and had just moved into her own apartment in Kelowna, BC. She had been dealing with ovarian cysts for a few years, which is fairly common for young girls. The last flare-up in January of 2022 sent her to the hospital a few times, and finally by March, the pain wasn't going away, and I went with her to the Kelowna emergency room on March 14th. That day will forever be ingrained in my head. That day, an awkward young doctor walked into her room after her CT scan was done to blurt out, "This is bad. We're talking cancer." Our lives were forever changed from that moment on. That was a Monday, and by Wednesday, it was confirmed that it was signet ring adenocarcinoma of the stomach, Krukenberg tumors on her ovaries, and metastases to the peritoneum. Stage 4, truly a parent's worst nightmare. By Friday, she was starting her first round of chemo. If you ever find yourself in this predicament, which I do not wish upon anyone, it is a very steep learning curve. As our daughter was getting this poison injected into her veins, we were getting a crash course on all the medication names that sound like a completely different language. Not to mention, they have alternate names, and everyone seems to interchange them in a way to make it most confusing. Meanwhile, I'm spending all my time Googling just about everything I can think of to find a cure. That was my stage 1, finding a miracle cure, because obviously there has been some mistake. Who do I need to speak to sort this out? Can I talk to the manager of the universe, please? I guess this is also considered denial. This cannot be happening to my baby. She is only 22 and is just beginning her life. She is so close to being done the school that she has hated, but also worked so hard to excel at throughout her life. And according to her favorite singer, Taylor Swift, 22 is supposed to be a great year. My stage two was to find a miracle doctor. This is a tough one, as you have all sorts of people with opinions and information like, my uncle went to Mexico for treatment, or I know someone who went here and is now cured. I can also tell you that by this point, Megan felt like a human guinea pig. She wasn't too keen on going anywhere to get all of these tests repeated. We came to the conclusion after a month or so that taking her away from family and friends to be poked and prodded again and come up with the same answers was not in her best interest. I still have thoughts about what if I had demanded they do surgery on her to remove her stomach and ovaries. Doctors told us chemo was more important, but that first round of chemo shrunk everything, and she was still strong enough to handle surgery at that point. I argued that they needed to think outside of the box. There must be something they could try. All along, you are also dealing with anger. My stage 3, so much anger. You are so mad at the world. How could a God or whoever oversees us let this happen to our amazing girl that has so much to offer the world? That will never make sense to me. As a parent, it was frustrating to not be able to fix this. That is our job, to keep them safe and help them navigate the world. My husband and I just felt helpless. Megan had an amazing outlook from day 2 on. She was going to share her story on social media so that she could help others out there who may be struggling with the same thing. She had just become an influencer in the months before her diagnosis, and her followers were growing steadily. We moved her back home from Kelowna to Edmonton, Alberta, for her treatment. The roller coaster of emotions and appointments began. Is the chemo working, or is the chemo killing our child? We want her to see the world, but is it safe, and how do we do that during chemo when she only feels good for a few days in between? Do we take her to the Mayo Clinic, New York, Texas, Mexico, Europe, Toronto? Megan just wants to feel normal, but now she can't go out with friends because she's immunocompromised and has to see everything on social media that she is missing out on. Friends were inviting her out for coffee or lunch, which is so hard for a stomach cancer patient, as they often can't eat the same way or even feel like eating. The first week at the Cross Cancer Institute was a lot. Insertion of a port in her chest, meeting with the oncologist to hear that yes, this is going to kill her, and giving her a year to live. Online classes to learn about the in-hospital chemo as well as the take-home chemo that she would be on. A crash course for me on how to disconnect and flush her port. And the kicker, which I was not at all prepared for, a meeting with the pain management team, which was at 9 a.m., and they started off by saying, "We are here to make an end-of-life plan for your daughter today." My husband was not even allowed to be there because of COVID. This meeting almost destroyed me. It was also difficult for her as she felt like she was the only young person at the Cross Cancer Institute. I would guess the average age was around 75. It's depressing, and every time we went there, we wanted to splash bright colors on the walls. We made lists of things they could improve while she was getting her chemo. Things like having a dedicated area for younger people getting their treatment, and just in general, brightening up the place. She was a trooper, making the best of a shitty situation. She would do outfit checks on Instagram for her chemo appointments. We played lots of Uno, and it was always a plus to get one of her favorite nurses. A good nurse can make a huge difference. She also made a 45-minute YouTube video answering followers' questions about cancer and her diagnosis. It made her angry that people didn't believe she had cancer because her hair wasn't falling out. She wanted to educate people, and her humor always came through, and people appreciated her honesty. I still get total strangers messaging me from around the world to tell me how Megan inspired them and made them laugh. Stage 4 for me is sort of acceptance and how to make the rest of her days the best possible. This part was so difficult, but we could see the path and realize that this was not a battle that we were going to win. There were so many nights that I would lay in bed with her and cry. You need to be there for them when it all becomes too much. All of her hopes and dreams for her future were crushed. She would ask, "Who will ever love me like this?" As a 22-year-old, that is a huge part of life, finding your first true love. Meanwhile, I'm thinking that we will never see our only girl walk down the aisle in a wedding dress. She will never feel the joy of having a child of her own. We would talk about things that she still wanted to accomplish to do, and we would usually end up getting the giggles most nights, as that was just our way of dealing with this unthinkable situation. I missed those nights snuggling with her and would give away everything I own for just one more. Megan accomplished so much in her short time on this earth. She had always wanted to be famous. I think I mentioned that before. So she decided to do a TikTok to see if she could meet two of her idols, Taylor Swift and Selena Gomez. It went viral. Selena's team reached out in June, and Megan got to have a 30-minute FaceTime with Selena that meant so much to her. They chatted like best friends, and it was a great day. She also got to graduate at the end of June and was presented her degree from the president of Okanagan College. That was very satisfying to her, as she had worked hard all her life to achieve high marks and honors. It was excruciatingly painful for me to listen to the speeches about bright futures and new beginnings. We also attended a friend's wedding, which was the first wedding that she was old enough to remember. All reminders of things she would no longer be present for in coming years. July was a better month of feeling stronger and more herself, and having lots of friends over to enjoy the summer weather. I would encourage her to get out on days that she felt good. She was a fashion influencer, and we had so many fun days around Edmonton taking pictures for her posts. She had some pretty good brand deals with companies like Hilberg & Burke, Blissy, and Princess Polly. So taking pictures in pretty outfits was a good way to get her mind off of things for a while. August started off okay, but soon saw her going in and out of the hospital. Her fluid started coming back in her abdomen, and we had a few scares at home with some fainting spells. I never left her side, but could see the toll that the chemo was taking on her body. I started to have the really hard chats with her that no mom should ever have to have with their child. She did not want to have the difficult end of life that her grandma had, struggling for her last breath. As soon as they had to put a permanent drain in her abdomen for the ascites, that was the last straw. She told me that she didn't feel like herself anymore. We were told that the chemo was no longer working, and the only option was another type of chemo that would most likely make her more nauseous and also lose her hair. Megan refused that path. She started to ask about her options, and we looked into MAID, which is medical assistance in dying. This is something that I had to research and ask people about. It is not an option that our healthcare system can present to you. It must be requested. We had a very nice doctor from MAID come to our house to answer all of our questions. He even had a private chat with our son to answer any questions that he might have. Megan needed to have complete control over this. The last 6 months of her life, she had zero control. As parents, we had to support her decision. You can't be selfish. They are the ones suffering, and it is so difficult watching them suffer. We talked about everything: what she wanted for her celebration of life, what clothes she wanted to be cremated in, what did she want to leave to her friends and family. On a Sunday in late August, she picked a date, which was the following Friday, September 2nd. Not quite 6 months from her diagnosis. So much for the year she was given when arriving in Edmonton in April. She was so nauseous at this point, she couldn't eat and was hardly drinking, and they had her on every anti-nausea medication out there. She told us who she wanted to see that week to say goodbye to. Lots of tears were shed, so many tears. She knew that she was not going to make it to New York Fashion Week, which had been a goal since diagnosis. Instead, she set up a fundraiser called Megan Fashion Week. She raised over $250,000 for stomach cancer research that week in September, and we have continued it as an annual fundraiser. It's pretty amazing. She had total control in the end. She came home from the hospital in her beloved car, a Mini Cooper named Kevin, climbed our staircase unassisted and one stair at a time on her bum. She had always been a stubborn girl. We said our final goodbyes to our girl, just as she wanted, in her bedroom at home with her puppy Harvey sleeping at her feet. My husband and I hugging her on either side. A Taylor Swift playlist on her phone. It was peaceful, but without a doubt, the worst day of our lives. Our bright, vibrant girl with a body ravaged by cancer. I didn't know how we would ever go on without her. How would we ever be able to laugh again? Sorry. Can't see my page anymore. We miss her every single day. She does send us lots of signs to let us know she's okay. We know that she is still with us. I know that she wants us to be happy. She told us before she passed that she would be the pink in every sunset, and that has given us such comfort. I wanted more hugs, more memories, more time. 22 years is not enough. Live your lives fully because you truly never know what is in store for you. I would like to thank Teresa, Katie, and Iris for being there for me in my darkest times. This is my first opportunity to meet them in person, but their help and friendship through my journey so far has been priceless. I also want you to know that there are many stages of grief, and everyone will experience different versions. Once you go through a stage, you are not done. Every individual has their own journey, and there is no right or wrong. Give yourself grace and time. I will leave you with a slideshow of our beautiful angel and a video of Megan at the end saying her now famous daily mantra. Thank you.
Hello, my beautiful friends. I hope you do something today that makes you and someone you love smile. And if no one's told you today, you are beautiful, you are kind, and you're the only one of you on this entire planet. And if that's not the coolest thing you've ever heard, I don't know what is. Mwah!
It's so it's Goodbye, goodbye.
Hello, my beautiful friends. I hope you do something today that makes you and someone you love smile. And if no one's told you today, you are beautiful, you are kind, and you're the only one of you on this entire planet. And if that's not the coolest thing you've ever heard, I don't know what is. Mwah!
Tammy, I can't imagine how hard it was to share that story. But I think everyone in this room got to meet Megan today. What a beautiful woman. What a beautiful story. I think we always have to remember that although we're always moving the needle forward in this disease, there are a story like yours. We're with you. We're with Megan. And thank you so much for sharing. I can't imagine how hard that was. Thank you.